right, welcome back. It's another week.
Welcome to the zoo.
Mm-hmm. Been a lot of crazy things that's happened these past couple of days. Just like an update on our life. This last weekend, we had our baby blessing for Indy. We had a lot of family. I had my parents come into town, so that was fun. We got to spend like a whole week here, so it was fun getting to work with my dad in the office. But yeah, what did you think? Like, if we were like giving a recap of our week.
I don't know. I feel like our life is always chaotic, but happy.
Happy, but also like on the verge of breaking, like having a breakdown.
Yeah, probably.
A mental breakdown.
Yeah. Just balancing a toddler and a newborn is always going to be chaotic, I guess. No, it was really nice seeing some friends and family with Indy's blessing. And I guess for anyone who doesn't know like about the baby blessing, just like explaining a little bit like what we do in our church.
Essentially, it's a prayer before sacrament where we give the child a name and a blessing that they'll be known by in the church. And yeah, it's kind of like a really loose guideline for like things in their life, I think. Mm-hmm. It's not anywhere near as detailed as like a patriarchal blessing. And for me, like when I'm giving the blessing, my mind honestly was like really blank, because it's not like I do that very often. I've only done it once before. I didn't even remember the exact words I was supposed to say. So I was like studying what I was supposed to say in the very beginning, so I got it right just because I was nervous.
Yeah.
But after like I memorized what it was, like the three things I was supposed to say before, I just didn't really know what to say. And so just kind of waited for thoughts to come to me. And the things that I can remember off the top are that she has a light within her that will bring others to Christ, that people will be able to see it, and that she's loved by people that have come before and people that are with her now. And was there anything else? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that was similar to what you said, but just like a beacon of love is what I remembered. Mm-hmm. Just seemed like she would be really in her life just guiding people and helping people and shining and just loving. It was really
if it fits her personality, like her personality is always happy and smiley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think just you saying that she'll be guided and helped, I think, in a way with people that have been gone before, you said, right? Mm-hmm. So that meant a lot to me that you felt to say that, just since, I really felt like my dad was there and is with us and guiding our family. And so it's just special to be reminded of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was great. It was really fun to see everybody and just have people over at our house and eat yummy food.
That part's actually stressful because I don't like having to do all the deep cleaning that it takes to.
And you were scrubbing the oven and scrubbing the microwave, right, Josh?
I mean, that was maybe not me, but
it was the fairy that comes.
Yeah, the fairy that comes and just makes our house clean.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was good to host. I haven't hosted, I feel like, at our house very much, so it was kind
You're
of
a really good host. You definitely want things like in tip-top shape before people come over, but you're a great host.
That's nice. Yeah, we did like a hair bow kind of theme. I'm wearing a hair bow today, but it was cute.
We did?
We did. Josh is like, that was the theme?
I didn't catch any theme.
You didn't?
No.
Oh my God.
I saw Jesus.
He's like, the theme is Jesus.
Well, I mean, I guess there was hair bow cookies.
Yeah. It's like, how I put that banner up that were little bows, and then the invitation had a bow on it, and then the cookies were bow.
Dude, how insane is this that I didn't even see an invitation?
It was just online. Like I just texted some people.
I never saw the picture of it.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But I was trying to go for like the really girly theme,
See, this is like one of those examples where Caitlin just like holds our life together, and I'm like completely oblivious to the details of everything that goes into making our life function like a well-oiled machine just because she holds it down. But I just don't know.
It's all about the details, Josh.
I mean, yeah, like I had no idea that that was a part of the theme.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's not because you probably didn't tell me. You probably did tell me.
I think I did, but it doesn't matter. It's all good. Anything else you want to share about our personal life before we get into the topic of today?
I'm just curious. Do you think that a lot of husband and wives are like that, though?
Yeah, just different strengths and weaknesses and things that you care about that I don't care about and vice versa.
Well, it's not that I necessarily don't care. It's just that I could care, but it's still not going to stay in my brain. It's like I feel like my brain has, like my ears have holes in them or something. It's like you'll tell me something, and by the time it gets through to the other side, it's gone. Like it falls into a black hole.
Yeah. I think like you said, you care, but there's so many things going on in your brain and life that you hear it and it doesn't register maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. All of our brains are different, I guess, and things that are priorities in our life. I don't know. Like you obviously like that the baby blessing was a priority, but the theme's not. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's all good. But yeah, I do think there's a lot of husbands and wives that probably feel that way.
I just feel like I also just like have so much trust that you're going to own whatever the result is of the party because you want it a specific kind of way, and I'm not going to get in the way of that. So
yeah, it's kind of nice that like you're not opinionated about certain things and you kind of just let me do what I'm going to do, and then same vice versa.
Honestly,
right?
That's one of the biggest marriage hacks is choosing which things you're going to have opinions on and which things you're not.
Yeah.
Because some of it really doesn't matter to me. As long as you're happy with it, I'm happy. But there's some things where, I do have really strong opinions, and I know that it's like probably annoying. Like, why do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah.
Or
but it's
vice
like few and
versa.
far in between though, where I feel like, oh wow, Josh really is going hard on that one. Mm-hmm. So it's not too annoying.
I don't want to like derail too much, but I'm just curious, what are some of the opinions that, like before we were married, was there any opinions that I had that you found out later that you were like surprised that I was more opinionated on it?
I mean, I would say something that's come up recently that you have been pretty opinionated about and we've had to discuss a lot is like vaccinations.
I feel though at the same time though, like that's something that you and I really kind of experienced together.
No, we did. Yeah.
Because prior to COVID, I really was kind of indifferent. Mm-hmm. And even shortly after, like Noah got all the vaccinations. Like we didn't pick and choose with Noah. But
yeah.
I don't know. Like I just feel like there's so many layers to the vaccine scenario that it's like I just feel like a lot of people can't really be honest. Like they're so indoctrinated entrenched into their opinion that they can't see relative, or like they can only see relative truth, not absolute truth when it comes to the scenario. That I feel like I could go down into a rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I was thinking,
honestly, this would probably make good short material.
Yeah.
On social media, but
yeah,
it's like you can't look me in the eyes and tell me that the COVID vaccine should really be on a child schedule when we know for a fact now that there's some of the least risk, like they have the least risk out of everybody because, I don't know, just the things that we've learned about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to try to like quote specific studies. I'm not that guy, but I pay attention and I know that that's the truth, that they're one of the least vulnerable populations. And so why? Like, why should it be mandated to be put on the childhood vaccine schedule when you know for a fact it's not needed? It's been said that it's not needed. And so why does my baby need it?
Yeah.
It's like, to me, okay, I think you could objectively look at that and say, that's a money grab. That's a money grab. And if that's a money grab, then how many other money grabs are there on the vaccine schedule? And so like the thing that really like messed me up was when we were looking at like the hepatitis vaccines, and we recognized that one of the first shots they give babies is one that is designed to prevent sexually transmitted diseases. It's like, why the hell does our baby need a sexually transmitted vaccine, like something like that? It's like, sorry, it's not going to happen. Not in our household.
Yeah.
And like I get it if the mom has something, but you don't have anything. And I'm not going to go out and sleep with a hooker and bring something back.
Oh my God.
Like, it's like the scenarios that would need to take place. Like, I'm not going to sexually molest our children after I've done stuff with a hooker. It's like, bro, it's not a real world scenario. So explain to me why my child needs that vaccine, and you can't. And so,
because that would never,
it would never happen.
any of the situations that could happen, I feel like would never happen in our.
And you know what? We're not going to, like, the people in our circle that would hold our baby, that, like, if our baby had a cut and they had a cut or something like that, where it could be like, I'm pretty sure we would know if somebody had an STD like that within our small circle of people that we would actually let hold our child. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure your mom doesn't have hepatitis B.
Yeah.
Like,
some of them really do feel pointless, like you are saying, you know, and it doesn't really
ridiculous.
Make sense.
It's ridiculous. It's like, it's just one of those things that you can't look at me and tell me in good faith that legitimately needs to be given to every single child in America. You just can't. And if you absolutely believe that, then I think that you're dishonest. I think you're dishonest, and there's a couple different vaccines like that. Sorry, I'm not trying to, like, go on and on and on, but it's just one of those things where clearly there's issues with big pharma. Like, go figure, they're some of the most greedy companies in the entire freaking existence of humanity. That's not an exaggeration. They operate probably off of 60 to 70% profit margins. And it's like, they're just greedy bastards that'll take. They have Congress in their pockets. They control and study, and like they fund the universities that do studies where they're evaluating the efficiency of what it is that they're selling. There's so many different conflicts of interest. It's that you would have to be absolutely retarded to not see through the veil of crap that, like, there's so much implicit bias that it's astounding that anybody can honestly look themselves in the mirror and say, there's no bias here. It's like, you're an idiot if you really don't think that. And so I get really, really heated about it, because it's like 2 + 2 = 4. Yeah, there's actual bias that you can't dispute. But then you try to tell me to my face that my child needs a hepatitis B vaccine. It's like, get out of here. I'm not doing it. And if you tell me that, I'm not going to trust, like, everything that you say to me. I have to look through a lens to see whether or not you're telling me the truth, because I can't trust blanket statements from you anymore. And I just feel like we live in crazy world right now. I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. And look, I'm not trying to say that all vaccines are bad. I really do believe in modern medicine. Like, I think that there's some things that legitimately have advanced, like, life expectancy. But I also think that it's foolish to just assume that everything's good because a doctor says it's good, or because a university study says it's good. You have to go back to the source and ask yourself, why was this study done? Who funded it? What did the person that funded it, did they have any motivation in the outcome, or was there any connection to their funding? Like, if it was a bad outcome, would they still have funded it? They probably wouldn't have. They'd probably bury it. In fact, there's a lot of studies that are done that get buried. It's not like they're forced to publish every single study. They only publish the ones that they want to be put out there. And so of all the crap that we can see that may be good or bad, they're only showing the good stuff. And so it's just like,
I always wonder that too. Like, why is it that in the US, like, there's only certain countries that are, like, the ads are being put out all the time with different medications, right, Josh? Like Australia, I can't remember the certain countries, but I don't think Australia, they allow.
No, most countries don't. I think it's only America. I could be wrong on that. So my issue isn't so much with vaccines. It's with people. I feel like it insults my intelligence that people assume I should just be a sheep. I'm not a sheep. And I'm not going to trust what you tell me just because you tell me I should, especially when I can see through your lies.
Yeah.
So
I get that. I would say for me, it's more like feelings based. I mean, I think that you can do research, obviously, like you're saying, look at studies and really educate yourself on each individual vaccination, read books, figure out what feels right to you. But I think a lot of people have questioned things ever since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we kind of have gone off more of a feeling that we just don't feel good about certain things. And so it's really individual.
I just want to be really clear. We're not anti-science. And honestly, that's a really cheap cop-out for dismissing somebody's concerns. Like you could label me that way. But the truth is that I'm thinking deeply about it. I'm not accepting blanket statements from anybody that vaccines are bad or vaccines are good. I'm thinking deeply through the different layers of things that most people don't think about. I'm not trying to say that I'm a better thinker than anybody, but I'm just saying that the label of being anti-science is a cheap cop-out. It's a cheap cop-out for somebody. And it's also a cheap cop-out to say that all vaccines are bad. It's not the truth. Neither one of those is true. And there's nuance, right? Like there's truth on both sides.
Yeah.
But you have to look at the underlying motives. You have to look deeper than just what the surface level is. Like you have to look deeper than what CNN tells you. You have to look deeper than what Fox News tells you.
Well, and I think it's important, like you said, to look deeper because these are our kids' like bodies, right? Their lives. Yeah. And so I think that we should be looking into it more rather than just following, like you said, blindly.
And honestly, like when it comes to the childhood schedule, I don't look at the vaccine schedule and understand why there is significantly more vaccines on the schedule now than when our parents were getting vaccines or when we got vaccines. Mm-hmm. And I just don't accept it. Like if you're going to have me inject something into my body that you're going to get a lot of money for, then you need to justify to me why. Why do I need that? Why wasn't that needed before? Why are people not that much healthier?
Yeah.
Then like if it was really that big of a deal.
There's different side effects I feel like now that we're seeing, something that I brought up with my mom that I'm curious about, and I haven't done enough research about it, but why are there so many people nowadays lactose intolerant? All of these different things that like a lot of people didn't deal with, like just so many allergies. Like, do you think that has anything to do with vaccinations?
I mean, I don't know anything about lactose intolerance,
yeah.
But what I do know is that a lot of people assume that there's some sort of correlation between autism and vaccines. And there absolutely is a correlation. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's causation, but it's one of those things where truthfully, that kind of study and research has been so gate kept by biased parties that I don't think that we actually really know. Like people right now could pull out studies and say, there's no proof, there's no proof, there's no proof. Who the hell is funding the studies? You think it's some like unbiased third party that's doing that? No, they're not. They're not doing that. It's big pharma, and it's like whether it's actually big pharma or it's groups that are funded by big pharma, they're not going to let you see the data. And like it's just the world and the information in which we get comes from so many different sources that have so much implicit bias.
Yeah.
That it's like I feel like we're swimming through an ocean of crap looking for like tiny flecks of truth. And it's just wild, the world that we live in today. It's like we live in a world where information is cheap, and we live in like there's truth mixed with crap with it. And people hold on to the truth and accept the crap that's with it because they don't think deeply enough about the source. Or
sometimes I think it's laziness as well, though.
Yeah.
Because for me, like I'll admit that sometimes I didn't want to like dive deep into certain things because I just didn't want to take the time to do it. Mm-hmm. And there's so much out there, like you said, that you have to sift through and you have to put effort into, that I was just like, oh, I don't want to do it.
But though, like you're not wrong. When it comes to the surface, there is a lot to sift through. But if you have like an understanding of emotions, of like your own emotions, and you can understand what motivates and what motivates people and organizations. When it comes to businesses, this is unfortunately the truth, okay? When it comes to businesses, especially large corporate entities, they're not people. You kind of have to think about them as psychopaths or sociopaths. I'm not remembering what the right term is. But they will do things that are self-preserving, that are benefiting to them at the expense of others.
Yeah.
At the expense, like they will do things and justify it for the greater good of the stockholders, of the business, even if it shafts or hurts people. And ultimately, their self-interest is the most important aspect of what it is that they do.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not trying to cast moral judgment on that, but it is what it is. That is what it is. And so this idea that these entities like Pfizer or Moderna are like, they lean towards altruism always, or they have a tilt towards being altruistic all the time, it's not true. It is not true. That's not how any business works when it comes to businesses that are that size. People can be altruistic. Businesses are businesses. Like they're machines. They're machines that are self-preserving. And sorry, I know that you keep looking at the camera. I know that like I'm going on a rant.
No. You're fine.
But when it comes to that, like if you can understand that businesses are that way, and honestly, it's not even just businesses. Political organizations are that way as well. Republicans are like that. Democrats are like that. And even deeper than that, like the same reason why you need to be distrustful, or not distrustful, because I don't feel like I am a skeptic to the point where I don't trust anybody or trust anything.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm a tinfoil hat person, but if somebody's like preaching dogma to me, like ideology that's not necessarily attached to truth, I feel like I can see it.
Yeah.
And I just don't always buy what people are selling. And I just feel like culturally, we've had big pharma shoved so hard down our throats. It has sent alarms off in my head, and honestly has turned me off more than anything. Like I'm disinterested in really engaging further than my understanding of biases, of like motivations. I can't trust the data. I can't trust the sources of the data because of biases and the sources of like where those funding for those things come from. And so we have to take it honestly one by one, you know? Like,
well, that's my question too about vaccinations. Like, what's your opinion on, like, do you think it's better to kind of just throw your hands up and say, we're not doing any of it right now?
Not necessarily.
Or do you think that it's better to like sift through and pick and choose certain vaccinations that you feel work for your family?
Honestly, I would feel okay with our child having the same vaccinations that we got, but I just don't understand the need for more. Like, okay, the one caveat with this that I would say I could kind of understand why we need more is because immigration has radically increased. Like the influx of people from second and third world countries into the U.S. is significantly more than when we were kids.
And they're bringing in things
and
that
they're bringing
could be
in
different
stuff
that we're not.
Could be different.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that herd immunity is something that should be looked at. Like, if we didn't vaccinate our daughter all the way through, I think the odds of her getting polio pretty low. Like, pretty freaking low.
Well, like you're saying, our environment, who we're surrounded by, there's a lot of factors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wish that there could be intellectual honesty, because I feel like there's not. I feel like there's not surrounding the situation. People are way too quick to just throw labels at each other of you're anti-science or you're a sheep or like,
yeah,
when the truth is somewhere in the middle. But it requires us to really do kind of like some soul searching. And I just don't know that I can really trust corporations like Pfizer to have my family's best interests in mind. And that's at the core of my concern around it.
Yeah.
Is that I just don't necessarily trust that they aren't going to shove extra crap in there that we don't really need. for the sake of padding their corporate profits.
Yeah.
And
well, they don't have our best interests, like you said, at heart. They don't know us. I mean, I think a lot of the time it's a money grab, like you're saying.
The craziest thing about all this is that culturally, this is something that the left would have agreed with like 20 years ago. But now it's like you're a right-wing conspiracist if you believe that. It's like they've switched.
Well, I think people are a lot more
crazy.
open on both sides from what I've understood.
Well, I hope so. I hope so, because
yeah. I think, like you said, it's more just to be open to talk about things and educate yourselves on both sides, you know, rather than just saying this is completely leftist. This is, you know. Yeah.
I'm not trying to like paint people into a corner, but I just feel like people would listen to what I have to say and say, oh, he's like a right-wing conspiracist.
I don't know if they would really say that anymore, though, like you're saying. I think times have changed.
And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with necessarily being skeptical of putting the burden of proof on organizations like Moderna and Pfizer to prove to me why it's legitimately needed, and to find sources for me, or like for me to look for sources that are completely without bias.
Another thing that I've seen some moms talk about, they will do certain vaccinations at like a slower pace too.
Mm-hmm.
And then like
a modified schedule.
Yeah. And then like afterwards they'll like detoxify their kids too. Like in a bath, they'll put something in the bath like to almost
get heavy metals out.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's real or not.
I know. I was curious what you thought about that. Like if it actually, you know, works.
I honestly don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. What I do know is that we meant to talk about something else this week. I know this is an extremely polarizing episode, like a really polarizing subject. And so for people that are listening to this, I guess what I hope from this is that like there's an understanding of where my thought process comes from. It doesn't come from right-wing, left-wing ideologies. It doesn't come from me having a tinfoil hat on my head. It comes from me understanding business, and it comes from me being skeptical of large corporations that, frankly, have been sued for billions and billions and billions of dollars for doing the exact thing that I think that they're doing. And so it's like they've already done things like that. And corporations like that are not moral. They're not. They are amoral, and they don't think with altruism. That's not how they operate. It's a machine that's designed for efficiency and maximization of profit. That's it. That is it. And the whole premise of, oh, it's just business. People write off like their excuses, or like that's like the biggest excuse in the business world for doing things that are gray morally. It's just business. And that's not something that I just deal with. That's something that it's how large corporations are run. They are run without any worry about how anybody thinks about it. Yeah. It's just business.
Yeah.
And
for money.
Yeah, it's for money.
Yeah.
And so really my underlying motives or my underlying skepticism doesn't even necessarily lie with the science. It's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. I don't feel like I can necessarily trust the data because they control the data, they control the studies, they pay the doctors. How do we know they pay the university institutions. And it's like I'm living in a crazy world trying to explain to people that that's not, like that's something that we should look at.
Like you said, how can we fully trust it? Yeah.
Like why should I fully trust that? Mm-hmm. And why should I have a label thrown at me that I'm anti-science when truly my issue isn't even with the science? My issue is not with the science. It's with the underlying, like it's on the bedrock of what the science is built off of. Like the foundation, I don't trust the foundation. I don't trust the foundation because I don't trust them. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. So this episode is brought to you by our family's door-to-door company called Toro Marketing. We wanted to put feelers out there and let anybody know that if they have friends or family that are coming home from their mission soon and they're looking for work, we are a safe place to refer people to work with, whether they're your family or friends. With us, door-to-door is different. We don't really buy in to the typical door-to-door mentality of like glitz, glamour, like things that really don't matter. For us, door-to-door has been a vehicle for becoming better versions of ourselves. And so for Toro, that's something that really matters to me a lot. If you guys send us referrals, you can reach out to us directly through our Instagram page for Welcome to the Zoo. And if they sign up with us, you guys will get a $500 gift card. This topic was not something that we were originally planning on talking about, but we think that it's polarizing enough that it would make a good episode in and of itself. If people are upset about my opinions, just know that my wife is innocent in a lot of it. It's really more so me that has issues with it. So if anybody's going to say names, you can direct them at me on social media.
Direct them to
and
Josh.
I really, I'll just warn you, I probably won't care what you think.
Direct it to Josh's decaf energy.
Yeah, you can direct it straight towards me not caring too much about other people's opinions, because the things that I've arrived at independent of anybody else's opinions. I wasn't influenced by anybody. It's just my sole reasoning that it just makes sense to me that there's something that should be looked at there.
Yeah.
So, and I think that if anybody can honestly say, if they think that they're being honest with themselves and saying we should just trust it, they're not. They're not being honest with themselves. So, because that's just not, it's not based in reality. It's not based in truth.
If you guys like this episode, maybe we can go even deeper.
Yeah. I think that some people will either really like it or they'll be like, Josh, you don't know what you're talking about. But you know what? I'm not talking about the science. Okay? I'm not talking about the science. I'm not talking about all the different vaccines. I'm talking about the foundation on which those are built off of and sold to us, which is something that I am extremely qualified to talk about. I'm qualified to talk about business. I'm qualified to talk about motivations and how I can read people's motivations. I read people for my career. That's what I've done for 14 years, and I'm pretty damn good at it. I have a really good BS sniffer, and Big Pharma smells like crap. That's what I have to say about it. So,
drop the mic.
Yep, mic drop.
Yeah,
Sorry, one last thing. Say this as vaccinated people. We were vaccinated.
Yeah. We
weren't vaccinated for COVID just because my BS meter started going off like crazy, but we vaccinated our first child. But as more, once when we decided not to was when they put the COVID vaccine on the child schedule. And that really just kind of confused me as to why they would do that.
I just hope anyone listening to this does have some pause when it comes to vaccinations and really just educate yourself and do more research and talk to more people and make your own, decision.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really easy, like you said, to just throw your hands up and just not want to do it. And I've been there and I get it. But I think that the way that our world is, like you've said, it's different. And we have to look at that.
And you can't just look at each individual vaccine. You can, but you need to look at the bedrock of the information that's being fed to you. Why is it being fed to you? What's the motivation? What was it in their best interest to spin this story a certain way? Is it not? Or what is that? Because the truth is that the science world, when big money is involved, it's not any less it's just like the news. There's a spin. There's a spin to it. There's an angle to it. Science, you can't just say that science is science because it's not that way anymore. Not when big business and trillions of dollars are involved.
Yeah.
You're being sold something. And you know what? Sometimes it's something that's good and sometimes it's not. So, I don't know. I just think that people need to think a little bit more critically. And if I get any judgment for that, then whatever.
I support you.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, we'll leave it with that for this week. And next week, we're going to talk about adult friendships, which is what we were originally supposed to talk about, which is very different than vaccines. But I feel like the vaccines thing is relevant because we have a newborn baby. So yeah. It's something we've thought about.
Yeah. And definitely, I would love to hear any feedback from anybody about this episode, and I'm sure we can talk about it more in the future too. So
yeah. And just one last thing.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. if you're in the medical profession and you're offended by what I say, if it offends you to the point where you can't admit that there's biases, then you're thinking ideologically, not based in actual, like, don't think with dogma, think with logic around it. And if you think logically and take emotions out of it, you'll see that what I'm saying is true. There are biases that have to be accounted for that most people don't want to do. They don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
And that's what I say. If you felt like this resonated with you, please share it. You didn't feel like it resonated with you, also still please share it. And like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week.
Welcome to the zoo.